Hello, my name is Andrew Thake, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's Minds and Money 5 at 5 show, which is sponsored by Dundee Goodman and is brought to you in association with Resource Global Network. For those of you attending 5 at 5 for the first time, the aim of 5 at 5, 5 guests at 5 p.m, is to maintain engagement between investors and miners through a lively interactive format whilst we wait the return of physical events. A few admin announcements before we start. Please have your videos switched on. And to ask a question, you've got two options. You can either submit them in the chat function, where you see I've written some welcoming remarks, or you can also click on the participants button, wave your hands virtually. Myself, my colleague Kelvin Johnson will unmute you, and you can ask your question live. We also, being the end of a week and being the end of a very long, hard first quarter, we invite you to bring along a glass of wine or beer to relax, sit back and enjoy. For today's show, we have a great lineup of guests, and to introduce them without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to today's MC, Rob Dixon, Managing Director of Dundee Goodman.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And I love the invitation to grab a glass of wine or a beer or what have you. It's 5 o'clock even here in Toronto. So first and foremost, happy Easter to everyone on the call. Happy Passover. And sorry, bear with me 1 second. Got some breaking news here. And actually, this is quite interesting. World Gold Council says Bitcoin is merging with gold, gold-backed Bitcoin. This is pretty big news. Oh my God. Is that serious? Andrew, are you seeing anything on? We've been wanting this, and it's finally happened. The Bitcoin is finally got, it's finally going to have that gold backing. I mean, that's what we've been wanting. So
definitely is. I wonder whether it could be like a certain day of the week there, Rob. I just can't quite think.
Well, what I will say that April Fools, everyone, but may we not have any April Fools when it comes to everyone talking about their projects and their numbers and their drill results and so forth. But just to reiterate, that was an April Fool's joke, although I wish it wasn't. As I mentioned today, Robert Dixon, Managing Director, Dundee Goodman Merchant Partners. On today's panel, we've got a great lineup: Reunion Gold, Loncor, Summa Silver, New Placer, and a bonus coverage, bonus edition, last minute, a new entry, Andean precious metals. So what's gone on in the last year? Really, the last year, but call it August of last year, when everything was at its highs. There's a lot of air being sucked out of the football, so to speak, in terms of the gold price coming down. It's down about $500 since its peak in August of last year. I wanted to sort of contextualize, like, why this panel, why now? I mean, we've had a situation where all these stocks are well off their peaks, and in some cases, at their lows. But actually, that's ironically exactly the point of this, having this panel today. It's exactly why we want to do this. I don't have to remind anyone, not least ourselves, which were a major investor in some of the companies on the panel here and others. This is exactly what we want to be buying, and we have been buying. Actually, if you look at a lot of the additions that Dundee Goodman Merchant Partners has made in the last few months, we've doubled down and added to positions that we've been building in the previous year. And why do we do that? Because we see even greater value. A lot of the companies, by the way, on the panel, and a lot of other companies that financed last summer in the peak, the recent peak, I should say, have had the double challenge of deploying that capital in a COVID environment, drilling when not being able to get any drill results, not getting assay labs to return anything. So it's been a really quite a difficult time, I got to say, for all of them. And they've been absolutely brilliant, all of them. And I applaud all the mining companies out there that have struggled through this. You guys have done an amazing job, and we applaud that. And so I just wanted to say that all being said, we got a limited amount of time, so I can't talk forever on these items. But my challenge and my hope for all of you on the panel today to you is that you only got a few minutes. I really want to put your best foot forward, focus on what excites you the most. And, why are we here? I always sort of mentally, philosophically ask myself, why would anyone want to be on a panel on a Thursday evening before a long weekend, at various late in the evening in London and late in the day in Toronto and so forth. It's to get something out of this. And what I think, if you want to go through line by line and everyone's presentation and spend an hour doing that, I invite you to go onto their websites to go and look through the presentations. But for the purposes of this, as I said, my challenge, my hope is that each of the CEOs really give us their best on that. I'm going to just finish with one personal anecdote. You know, April of 2006, so 15 years ago, I was a little bit younger, quite a bit younger, and a little bit thinner back then. But I remember a morning, I was working at Dundee Securities back then, doing institutional sales, and I got the tap on the shoulder to go meet a company whose stock was halted that morning, and the stock was up 260% on some brand new drill results. I'll tell you who the company is in a second, but I'll tell you this: the prior year, no one gave a shite about that company or its management, and the stock was flailing away at 30 or 40 cents, and they were down to some of their last drill holes and their last money. It was around PDAC around that time. And I went out for a late morning meeting that day to meet a certain gentleman named Patrick Anderson, who, and I tell you, I'll never forget it. He was unfolding the maps in the room on a table. His hands were shaking as he was doing it. His hands were shaking because that company had drilled 189 meters at 24 grams per ton at Fruta del Norte in Ecuador, which is now owned by Lundin Gold. My point is, and I guess my punchline before I hand it over to Carlos at Reunion to start us off is, no one gives a shite until they give a shite. And that is so true in a lot of walks of life, but it's so true in mining and in mining exploration. So may we channel the spirits of Aurelian and their huge success all those years ago into all of your guys' companies. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Carlos to kick us off, and I'll try not to interrupt you guys anymore throughout the call, except to move things forward. So with that, Andrew, over to Carlos.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you, Mines and Money. Thank you, Dundee Goodman, for this opportunity. Hello, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Pleasure to be here with you today. And we're talking about Reunion Gold. We're a company specialized in the Guyana Shield. This is our playground, essentially, still very little known area on the north shores of South America with 3 jurisdictions: Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana, of course, 3 former European colonies. And it's an area we know quite well. Our group, in fact, the name Reunion comes from a group of people that worked a lot in this area in the 90s, came back together. A few years ago, we created Reunion Gold, and we decided to have another go at this region. This map shows the distribution of the 3 countries: the Greenstone Belt on the northwest in Guyana, eastern Suriname, and north and south French Guiana. As you know, most orogenic gold deposits in the world are found in this Greenstone Belt, and there's a very well endowed distribution of Greenstone Belts. Before the Atlantic Ocean opened up, this was all connected with West Africa, and I don't need to introduce you to the wealth, the gold production of West Africa. This has lagged behind for various reasons, etc. And so this is an area we know for quite a while. Here, for example, in Guyana, I did exploration at Omai Mine. I did exploration at Roosevelt. These are world-class deposits. We have people in the team who actually built and operated these mines. My team was behind the discovery of Montagne d'Or in French Guiana. So we got together, we created a Reunion. We're very excited to be working again in this region, and I'll be happy to show you more about the projects. So we have one project in Guyana, Oko, one project in Suriname called Northwest Extension, and 2 projects in French Guiana, the Boulanger and Dorla. Let's start with Guyana. The next slide, please. This is just a summary map of the area. We just schematically, we show pink as granites, green as volcanic rocks. This is a discovery. We're looking at this north-south contact between granites on the right and volcanics on the left. This 6-kilometer contact is, we've we've been working this for only a year now, and we confirmed this entire contact is mineralized. And we've been doing quite a bit of work on the north end of it, on that box there, the square box, which is about 2 kilometers north-south length. Next, please. This is a lot of numbers for you to digest. I don't expect you to read that, but we like to attack these opportunities with trenching and drilling. So all those red lines, those are trenches, which mechanized trenches we've done. We've outlined 3 shear zones. Those are the dashed red lines going north-south. They're slowly joining each other. We have excellent results from the trenching. Of course, we're only sampling weathered rock. This is not alluvial, this is not colluvium. And we've done only 1,000 meters of drilling early this year, just to demonstrate that this mineralization continues at depth. And we've done that, and now we are prepared to launch a very significant program to define weathered rock resources at Oko West. Next, please. So this is again, there's a lot of information, that map, but the map shows 8 blocks in which we'll be investing with 11,000 meters of drilling, 4,500 meters of trenching, and we expect to define several million tons of weathered mineralized material. I cannot call it resources, of course, but this will be systematically 100 meters spaced, fences, etc. This is very much the approach we used at the Rosebel deposit in Suriname, which now is boasting about 13 million ounces in resources. Systematic trenching, systematic drilling, and we are about to launch this program. This, we should be able to complete it within 6 months, and this is where we're going to be reporting resources for shareholders later the second half of the year. So this is the, I'd say, our newest. It just happens to be our most exciting project in Reunion. A project we have essentially an option to earn 100%. So we are very excited about the continuity of this program. And next, please. This is now Suriname, an area we know quite well. And again, Rosebel there, 13 million ounces, operated by IAMGOLD. You have Marion, operated by Newmont, reported 6 million ounces in resources. We're up there in the northwest extension. Of course, there's not much outcrop in the area. We've just completing a geophysical survey. We'll be drilling targets on the second half of this year. This is an alliance project with Barrick Gold. We signed 2 years ago with Barrick Gold an alliance agreement covering essentially the entire Guyana Shield, particularly Suriname and Guyana. And this is one project in which we're working closely with Barrick Gold, and we are busy looking at other opportunities in Suriname as well. And we do expect to report some new discovery later in the second half of this year. And we're quite excited about the structures and the opportunities we see this area, which is still very largely unexplored. Next, please. And then finally, in French Guiana, we're zooming in an area with 100 years of alluvial gold production. Quite a bit of work done by other companies. This is very much road accessible. And this block in the southern part, what we call the Crique Filon, this is one of the source areas for alluvial gold that's been mined historically. The locals are still producing about 20 kilos of gold per month from the creeks draining this area. And now we are busy demonstrating what the source areas are. Next, please. This again, a lot of geological information, but I just want to point out some of the grades in those 2 yellow boxes. This is an area with unusually high grades for the Guyana Shield. The average grade in the Guyana Shield is about 2 grams per ton, and here we have exceptional grades. But a lot of this historical drilling couldn't really figure out what was happening and why you have certain areas with higher grades and longer widths. And nobody had quite explained this, the reason why this was happening. And the next slide will show you why. It's simple. We have, I don't want to go into, I'm a geologist, I have to hold myself back, but we have 2 systems, 2 structures controlled by tectonic events, one D1 and D2. At the junction of those two structures, that's where the mineralization happens. The red pins is what we're proposing to drill this year. The blue pins is what we drilled last year. So we're about to embark on this drilling program, 3,000 meters, fairly modest at this point. And this we expect to be defining resources. This will be mostly hard rock resources with very good grades. We expect an average grade better than 4 grams in this area. And we have a number of other shear zones in the area to chase as we go forward. And next, please. And finally, this is what we plan to do over the next 6 months. I outline the projects on the top. Those are the budgets that we are planning to invest. And I invite you to consider Reunion as a shareholder. We work in a region with a large gold endowment, but very little exploration. A region we know well, we know how to deliver, we know how to get things done. We're a team with a proven track record in exploration, development, and operation from previous operations in Guyana and Suriname. These are projects poised to deliver gold resources. Particularly at Oko and Boulanger, we expect to deliver numbers on the second half of the year. And we have a pipeline of projects underway. I cannot, of course, comment on that, but jointly with Barrick, we're looking at several other opportunities, particularly in Suriname and Guyana. And of course, this strategic alliance with Barrick gives us quite a bit of technical and potentially financial support as projects going forward. So thank you for listening to this point.
Thank you, Carl. Sorry, Carlos. Andrew, was there any audience questions? Because I do have one I can kick off with if you'd like.
Yeah, if you want to kick off with one question first, and for the audience, if you've got any questions, please post them in the chat box.
Yeah, and I'm going to be monitoring time as we go forward. Just as an investor, we're a significant investor in the company, and obviously there's a lot of things that are interesting within it. One of the project that I think it's probably fair to say that we're most excited about as an investor is Oko West. And in particular, if you look, and this is sort of a question and a statement, if you look at what G2 Goldfields has been doing to the north, Carlos, can you just comment on, I mean, they, by memory, they've drilled probably 20 holes or so to the north of you guys, but relatively close to your property boundary, a couple hundred meters away. They've been putting out some very interesting results. And I think, so to the extent you can comment on that, maybe comment on that. And also to the extent we think there's a really reasonable chance that there's quite a significant resource to be defined at Oko West. If you just look at it on that I think it's about a 4-kilometer strike length there. So, I think you're going to probably have to do a lot of shallow drilling, relatively shallow, do a lot of it to prove that up. But that's, I think, where some of the juicy opportunity that we see among a few other things there at Reunion. So on those two areas, my question and statement is, can you quickly comment on those?
Yes, of course. Our friends from G2 have done good work just to the north, and in a sense, they inspired us to look on our side of the boundary. Of course, most of the area from G2, from what we see, most of their drilling focus on the hard rock, the deeper parts of what they have is the mineralization, mostly because the area, there's a lot of artisanal workings on the surface. And these artisanal workers have actually mined quite a bit of the saprolite rock. So if you look at the published results, they have excellent grades and very good intersections, but all pretty much below saprolite, below the weathered rock. We are taking a different approach because our area is largely untouched by artisanals. We want to very quickly define the weathered rock resources first, the saprolite resources. This is material which is free digging, easy to mill, easy to process, and with good grades and good widths, we could establish a resource very quickly. And then once we do that, we decide how much further at depth we want to push that resource. So that's why this program, of course, I didn't go into details. We're looking at doing very short drilling, say down to 80 meters. We know the saprolite, the thickness of the weathered rock is only about 60 meters. So we go a bit into the fresh rock, but we'll define the bulk of the saprolite. And of course, we have 4 kilometers of this stuff to drill.
Yeah.
And so we do expect some significant resources to come out of it. And then we have the kind of problem we all like to have, And what do we do with this in terms of going forward, in terms of expanding ADAPT, starting some smaller scale operation or something. And that's where we're heading to.
Thank you. I don't mean to cut you off, but in the interest of time, I gotta keep the ball rolling, if it will. It's a really interesting story, and at Dundee, we're a significant shareholder. Barrick might be a bit bigger than us, but we're a significant shareholder. We're a believer in the Guyana Shield and all the projects, but that one in particular is very interesting to us. So we'll continue to monitor that going forward. Without further ado, though, I want to shift over to John Barker, and we're going to move from South America to the Congo. I guess my quick comment on that is you don't go to the Congo lightly in the sense that you're not looking for small things. You're looking for really big things in the Congo. And I think it's probably fair to say that John and Loncor are believers in the same philosophy there. And I think they're onto something. So John, take it away.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rob, and hello to everyone around the world. It's really gratifying, I suppose, for us as a team at Loncor to see the signs of increased interest in our story. And I suppose earlier, Rob, you were just intimating that we really should cut to the quick on this one. Well, for us, it's simple. ADUMBI. And if you don't remember any other name in Loncor, that's the one to remember. We have other projects. I was just checking that. We have one project, 3 kilometers, and historically it's at 64 grams a ton and 4.3 meters. We're not going to talk about that. It's on the website. You can check it. You can look at previous presentations. We've got a JV with Barrick over 56% of our ground. They're looking for another Kibali too, and they're busy drilling. We're not going to talk about it. That's not where the value release is in this story. It's really on ADUMBI. Now, we were just hearing from Carlos about the greenstones. These also are greenstones, and the history, you can see there some big mines, Gator, Trangiza, and looking up, you've got Kibali sitting at the top there. So as I mentioned, we've got numerous gold projects under JV in the Ngayo Gold Belt there, where we have a dominant land package. And there's a number of positives, I think, occurring in the DRC currently, which are worth just touching on, because no doubt there's been a DRC discount for quite a while. But for example, Rob Friedland, virtually every day now you're seeing information coming through. It's pushing ahead of schedule on the JV he's got on the world's greatest copper deposit there, the Kamoa-Kakula. I saw more news coming through today. But I mean, for us, there's another project that I just want to draw your attention to, which is relevant to our story, very relevant. It's the Kibali gold mine. You can see that in the top right-hand corner there. That's Barrick JV with Anglo Gold, controlled by Barrick. It's 220 Ks away. And it's really helped put our developing ADUMBI project into context. It achieved EBITDA in 2020 of $900 million. It's a real cash cow for them there. And last year, it registered Barrick's lowest all-in cash costs in Africa, sub $800 an ounce. So not only does it prove what can be achieved in the area that we're operating, people are questioning that, but we can use it as a yardstick of our stepping stones as we develop. And our resource and our ongoing drilling so far, which are in the middle of a 7,000 meter program, suggests that our project, ADUMBI, the likely grade in the pit and underground, at least matches Kibali. So we're very happy the way things are really progressing there. Just given the encouragement so far with the historic work plus the ongoing drilling, we're looking to imminently add to the 2.2 million ounces resources at our ADUMBI project. And I mentioned that we're doing this through around 7,000 meters of ongoing drilling, around 2/3 of the way through it. But to give you an indication, the most recent hole, LAD 9, it's the bottom hole curving away on the slide there. It's hard to read, but let me just read out the figures because there were excellent figures that came out. It hit 32 meters, 6.17 grams per ton, plus a further zone of 15 meters, 3.77. Now, these are early signs that the grades are increasing with depth, because this hole was down to around 600 meters deep. So to measure the quality of that hole, again, use Kibali as a yardstick. I mean, they've really put a lot of holes into their project. In 2019, Kibali's underground intercepts averaged 10 to 12 meters, depending on what zone you're looking at, and closer to 4 to 4.8 grams per ton. So the hole that we put down is approximately 3 times the width and significantly higher grade than Kibali's average intercept. So needless to say, we're encouraged by the drilling program so far. And that is repeated higher up in the pit shell, where we did some infill drilling. We've really been very happy with the widths and the grades that have come through so far. So we'll continue to release news on that. But when you combine the excellent grades to the reality that the drilling should imminently add significant ounces to our resource, then you can understand maybe why the market's beginning to listen to our story. We're targeting a resource of at least 3 million ounces from a potential ADUMBI pit and the 2 satellite deposits close by, plus another 800 to 1 million ounces below the pit profile. So we believe that ADUMBI will go from around 2.2 million or 2.5 with the satellites to around 4 million ounces, and that's only to 600 meters depth. So if we punch down a few deeper holes, and then we've got the potential there of achieving a tier 1 status, i.e. the 5 million ounce at excellent grades of, as I mentioned, 2.4 in the pit, and significantly higher grades underground, but narrow widths. Just on the geology, we're looking in the pit about 120 meters width, and then underground, well, depending on what we find, but 10 to 15 meters probably going to be mined at the higher grades. So I suppose in summary, the ADUMBI open pit resource upgrade is currently being calculated. So when I say imminent, it's actually the numbers have been crunched. And that's going to be followed straight afterwards with a PEA or scoping study to quantify the economics. And if you want to get excited, then just do the maths on what our economics are looking at. Now, granted, we're a resource currently, and we mustn't get away from that. This is inferred resources. But if you did want to speculate, if you look at Kibali's operating margin, they're sitting around US $1,000 an ounce. And you couple that to our 3 million ounce resource target, and do the maths on those 2 figures, spread it over a number of years, take off 300, 400 million capex for a pit, plant, infrastructure, etc. Discount it whatever rate you want, 5, 10%. You're still looking at the potential of very exciting economics for a company that's currently valued at Canadian 100 million, or around 25 US dollars an ounce. So it's that potential upside that's beginning to garner interest in the market, and that's without incorporating any of the upside from our other projects, such as Imbo East, which is close to ADUMBI, the Macapella, which I mentioned, which is high grade, we just need a drill, and the joint venture with Barrick, who are searching for essentially for Kibali too, in that ground. We have a joint venture with them and Gaio. So all those projects, they just add interest on top. And that's it. That's the story.
Yeah, sorry, I'll jump in because there is some audience questions we'll get to. Just remind everybody, what's the market cap of Loncor right now?
Yeah, we're sitting around 100 million Canadian. We're up 9% today, I think.
Yeah, it's been moving up, but I think as you said, Friedland is bringing a lot of I would say positive focus in terms of the market's changing perception on the Congo. That's a healthy thing, and as you say, ADUMBI just gets better and better, and with some more drilling, you're gonna, you don't see that kind of grade in many places around the world, and the Congo is well known for that. So, yeah. Kelvin, was there a question? I saw a question coming through.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to ask.
Or Andrew,
question.
Sorry, apologies.
Our question is: are there any challenges with small-scale mining operators gold panning around the boundaries or within the project concession?
There are artisanals working there, but we don't see it as a problem. I think this is all part of our ESG program, and educating, and the majority of the time, the artisanals are looking for the visible gold, the sugary quartz veins, etc. So where they go, they tend to mine down to a certain depth and then move on to the other areas. So we're not seeing large-scale issues that are being associated with this. And of course, we're still a way off a mine here. Probably, if everything went right, we're still 3-4 years off anything like that. So they're around, but there's no issues. And obviously, I say education is the key, and we'll obviously do that over the next few years.
Okay. Andrew, is there any further questions from the audience?
Yeah, just kind of one other kind of quick question. I noticed that as with Reunion Gold, you've got a JV partnership. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that, John?
Yeah, Barrick, actually, when it was Randgold still, just over 4 years ago, signed up a joint venture on about 56% or 2,000 kilometers squared of our Angayo ground. So they earn in up to 65%. And we don't contribute at all until through positive pre-feasibility. Only then do we start contributing. If they find a tier one, that 5 million ounce that I mentioned earlier on, if they find a tier one, then get a positive feasibility, that's when we'll start to contribute. If they don't find something that they want to keep, it falls back to us for free. They've got 2 rigs. After many years of diligent work on the ground, they've checked the geology, checked the age of the rocks, and similarities to Gabali and other areas, and they were then happy to send in the drill rigs. They've sent in 2 drill rigs. They're really doing like scoping drilling, just looking for major structure elements. Currently concentrating 2 areas, and we were awaiting drill results. So as I say, if something comes out of that, fantastic. If it doesn't, we have a pretty interesting future in our own hands.
Thank you so much, John. I think in the interest of time, we'll keep moving. And as we move to the end, we'll hopefully have more time just to sort of rapid fire everyone some questions and so forth. So without further ado, a returning champion, Galen McNamara from Summa Silver is up next. And
I think you got me on there.
Oh, sorry, that was my apology. But another returning champion, Max Sali, is up next. Apologies.
Thank you. Let's get this party started. We'll see either me or Galen who throws a bigger punch this round. But one thing I want to say is New Placer Dome is Kinsley. What has really made this company from when we did our IPO? We didn't have this asset. We brought this asset on June of last summer when gold was hitting new highs. Raised a bunch of money. Spent a bunch of money and drilled 18,000 meters at Kinsley. We had 3 drill rigs going all summer. And after a painful few months of waiting for the labs, we finally start having results coming in. And Rob was saying earlier, that the company changer was the Fruta del Norte, which was 24 grams over an amazingly long intercept. And if I could read the title from my press release last Tuesday, New Placer Dome Gold drills 24 grams gold over 4.6 meters. This is in Nevada. This is economic because it's just outside of our resource. This is a 35-meter step out to the northwest up here. And the nice thing about Kinsley is there are 3 different mineralized hosts at Kinsley. So if it's take my arm, you got the top, which is an oxide, and you got 2 lower sulfides. The sulfide has been tested. The metallurgy works. It floats 89 to 95%. So we know that ore works, which in Nevada, a lot of sulfide is refractory and it doesn't really work. And so coming out with a number like that last week is really throwing fire onto Kinsley, because essentially 10 years ago, Kinsley was throwing out numbers like this all the time. The asset had a peak valuation at $250 million when it was sitting in pilot gold. Right now, my company has a $20 million market cap with a higher gold price, and we're throwing out grades like this in Nevada. And kind of the 2 things that come to mind for me is location and valuation. You are in one of the best mining jurisdictions in the world, and you can pick up this company at a $20 million valuation, drilling 24 grams of economic gold outside the resource in Nevada. What is coming next? So we drilled 18,000 meters. We've released a bunch of numbers to date. We had a press release in January. It was over 10 grams, over 6 meters, just over on the south side of the resource. But what we have, and we're just finalizing the graphs for a press release next week, is this main pit north shallow oxide target. We currently have a resource at Kinsley, and it's a mix of oxide and sulfide. What happened with Pilot Gold back in the day is they were drilling off all this oxide and they started hitting really high grade sulfide. So they just stopped drilling the oxide and they kept on going over to the sulfide, and they were hitting phenomenal numbers. And if I can say, one of the reasons why we got this asset is because they were hitting numbers like 10 meters at 16 grams gold, 20 meters at 15 grams gold, 30 meters at 21 grams gold. And here we are 10 years later hitting those same numbers. But what really excites us about Kinsley is people forget that Kinsley produced 140,000 ounces oxide through an ROM heap leach between 95 and 99. So there's a hole over here in the main pit north that Pilot Gold drilled, who was the previous owner. They drilled 16.4 grams over 5.5 meters oxide. That hole is on the pit shell, essentially on the wall. So what we did is we went and drilled a bunch of holes outside of that. If any of those holes hit, we've just pulled the pit shell out. And because it's previously producing, we know that ore is amenable to heap leach. So that would be the low-hanging fruit at Kinsley. Going further down, the Secret Canyon or Secret Spot targets and Shale Saddle, that's another zone. So now we're getting into the third zone we're testing at Kinsley. If any of those hit, that is a new discovery for us. And so I guess the long and the short is, here we are. You know, we did a big raise back last summer, and now we're pulling out grades to the market that are exceptional. Some of the best holes, period, in Nevada drilled this year or over the last couple of years. And how I kind of look at it is, you know, last summer, every investor wanted gold, anything gold. So a lot of people were funding third, fourth, fifth tier assets. And now when the results come back, they're going to have nothing. So you're going to have to go and find a company that is hitting real grade in this market, because gold is not what it was last summer. So who are you going to go to? You're going to go to a company like myself, where you can find these grades in Nevada at a $20 million valuation. And I'm very happy and I'm very angry. And the reason I'm happy is because we hit, like I said, some great grades. I'm really pissed off because I'm blacked out and I can't buy any more of my own stock. If I could, I would be all over it, especially for that kind of number. And so, you know what, to keep it short, we have a lot of news coming. Every other hole that we drilled last summer will be out in April. And so we're right here. News is imminent. Keep us on your radar. And I think people are going to be very excited. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you so much, and my apologies for the little announcement mix up there. But here's a quick question. I know I mentioned it in the sort of preamble to this, but can you just comment very quickly on how slow the labs are and what you're experiencing there? Because I think that's a common theme, and I know Galen, who's up next, can comment on it as well. But what, you know, a lot of people are frustrated that you haven't put out the results. But I think this is a real issue, Yeah,
so the holes that we put out last week, there was 2 batches we sent to the lab, I think November 9th and November 22nd. It took 4 months. And the reason for that, 1 or 2, COVID, labs are at half capacity. Everyone raised a bunch of money, so now they're overwhelmed. And then also, when you send big amounts of samples to the lab, they tend to do the small samples first, because the labs don't get paid until after everything is done. So when you go and you hit them with 5,000 meters, it's a little overwhelming. But yes, it was very frustrating for us to have to wait 4 months for these results. In hindsight, looking forward now, if gold's now on the uptick again, do I feel better that maybe it's glad that we didn't have news for the last few months, and now when people are refreshed and gold's coming up, because we have a lot of news coming in April, and I hope gold is on our side.
Thank you very much. And Kelvin, is there any questions for Max at New Placer Dome? I know that was I think you mentioned, but New Placer Dome. Sorry.
Yeah. Just like one quick question. Can you just tell us about your management team a bit?
So my management team is myself, Brad Telfer, who's a son of Ian Telfer. We founded this company back in 2018. We brought on a younger, energetic group. But what we did when we acquired the Kinsley asset is we also brought on, as our senior advisor, Mr. Cal Everett. I call him Dad. He's like a mentor to me. He is highly successful, highly intelligent. He runs Liberty Gold. What an incredible company. And then based on Cal's advices, we brought on two very, very senior technical advisors. One is Mac Jackson, who was former senior and chief geologist at Newmont, and then was Gold Standard Ventures VPX and found them two deposits. He has blessed Kinsley. I have a whole report from him on it. And the other one is Alan Hitchborn, who was the former chief geologist at the original Placer Dome and actually managed the Bald Mountain mine, which is now owned by Kinross, that is on trend with Kinsley. And in his opinion, I also have a report blessing the project. And so I've had a lot of the best people mentor me and how to be a better CEO, and the energy is where you have to be. And you know, it's exciting to be where we are right now and have the news out, and hopefully we can show the market what we can do this month.
Thanks very much, Max. Appreciate it. And obviously, as you mentioned, I think you financed, I'm going to say 22 cents last summer. Was in that range?
22 cents. We're hanging on to our finance price.
That's right. So you're essentially where you've, pardon the expression, you've kind of round trip, and now the results are going to follow. So yeah, we'll obviously are keenly awaiting that. Now, without further ado, and as I said before, and apologies for the mix-up, another returning champion, Galen McNamara, the CEO of Summa Silver, to talk us through his projects rather in both Nevada and New Mexico. So without further ado, Galen, take it away.
Great. Thanks very much, Rob. And happy Easter, everyone. And it's great just to be here and to share this stage with a great group of companies. Like Max's story, you know, we're also focused in Nevada, but instead of being gold, we're silver focused. So I'm a professional geologist by trade. I'm the CEO of Summa Silver and the co-founder. We started it about a year ago now. And what a year it's been, where we've ridden a stock from 25 cents up to $3 plus, and now back down to $1. So just speaking to Rob's point earlier a little bit, now it's just I feel like we're on the cusp of something in precious metals, and hey, if I could be buying my stock and not blacked out like Max, you made a really good point there. I would definitely be doing it too. But of course, we're kind of seeing the same things. And when Max said, hey, it's been 4 months to turn assays around, that really rang true with me. We're probably using the same assay lab in Nevada, but here we are, and hopefully it works out in our favor. So just to get started, Summa Silver's Hughes project covers the eastern portion of the historically producing Tonopah Silver and Gold District in central Nevada. The Tonopah District is one of the largest and highest grade past producing silver districts in the US. And much like a few of the most successful stories in the market today, like K92 and Silvercrest, both multi-billion-dollar companies, the Tonopah District really offers what I think is an enormous opportunity to explore with modern-day methods and really take a big shot at building a large resource in a safe and mining-friendly jurisdiction. So this map here just shows some of our results from 2020. But really, what I like to point out, or what I'll say, is just to get into that. We drilled 14.5 thousand meters in 2020, and really came out with some fantastic high-grade silver intercepts at several different areas that we really thought were high-priority targets, and that was covering a strike length of about 3.5 kilometers. Highlights of these really were 2.5 meters of 3,760 grams per ton silver equivalent, amongst others. And I really believe that that's just the start of what our goal is here, and that's proving up a very large, very high grade silver resource at the project. For me, this is an incredible start, and it's really only just the beginning. Zooming in just a little bit more here on this map, we've got 4 targets showing over what is a strike length of 3.5 kilometers. The 2 on the left side of the map, the 2 on the west side, those are targets that are within this historic high grade district, where we're really going in and seeing what's left in unmined extensions of those veins, and hitting grades well in excess of 1,000 grams per ton silver equivalent in multiple holes. But what also really excites me is the 2 targets on the east side of this map, the 2 targets on the right. Those represent step outs from the historic district, blue sky type of things, where the veins ran into a fault zone, and the old time miners more or less lost them on the other side of that fault. But we've drilled 3 holes out there. The most, I think the most significant one being at the Ruby target, which is actually a 1.3 kilometer step out of this district. And, and we've hit. So really those two targets are our big swing targets, in that if we can get onto something out there, you know, it really is elephant country, and we're looking for the extension of this district. Okay, Andrew, I'm ready for the next slide. Okay, so second project, and our second project, again, you know, this is one of those past producing high grade silver districts, but instead of in Nevada, we're now in New Mexico. These mines in this district, and this is called the Guiana district, they weren't shut down because of lack of resources. They were shut down because at the beginning of World War II, when the US went into World War II, all silver and gold mining in the entire country was stopped by law. You know, our modeling here really suggests that there are several areas of the district that were drilled but never mined out. One extremely high priority target, which is the one I'm showing here, is called the Consolidated Mine. The target around the old mine spans 500 meters in strike, 200 meters vertically. And if our drilling is successful, it really is an excellent target for what I would consider to be a low risk, high grade resource in a safe and mining friendly jurisdiction. I actually just got back from visiting this project over a couple days, just at the early part of this week, for the first time, you know, because we optioned this during COVID and we haven't been able to travel. So seeing it for the first time, you know, you go into one of these old places, and it's like going back in time, but in a lot of ways too, the potential. And I took a bunch of pictures, and I'll probably be sharing them on Twitter, you know, periodically as I go. But for me, it's the sense of scale on both of these projects, where I visit them and I look to myself, you know, we're really onto something here, and it's going to be an interesting year. Okay, Andrew, next slide, please. So just to close things up, we currently have about $13 million in cash and about 60 million shares outstanding. You know, being fully cashed up, we're going to execute large drill programs at both the Hughes and the Guiana properties this year, really in our quest to deliver and build high-grade resources at both of these projects. So that's thanks very much.
Okay. Do we have any audience questions, Kelvin?
Yeah, so just a quick question to set things off. You started trading on the TSXV, I think it was January of this year, Galen. How has that transformed your investor base?
I wouldn't say it's transformed our investor base. I mean, we started on the CSE. The CSE is a great place to start. You know, for the smaller sized companies, there's less red tape, but, you know, we grew. And as we grew, that changed what our needs were. The TSX, I think, is a great step. The venture, I should say, is a great, you know, first step from the CSE. And what it provides us with is just, I think, increased exposure. Has it transformed our investor base? No. But it's kind of, now we're at the stage where it was definitely the right thing to do.
Okay.
Rob?
Was there any further?
No further questions from the audience at the moment. So last chance to post your questions there, unless you've got one, Rob.
No, you know what? I'm going to wait just because I want to leave time for Luis. So without further ado, we'll move forward to last but certainly not least. Again, it was very much a late entry to this panel, but last definitely not least. You know, this is sort of, in a sense, the big reveal, because Andean is a company that is not well known at all, because it just started trading literally this, I think it was, if I'm wrong, Monday. It traded for the very first time on the TSX venture. So AMP's the ticker. I'm going to hand it over to Luis, but there's a lot about this company that is very, very unique, notwithstanding the fact there's 157 million shares out, and they have 70 million US in cash on the balance sheet. And on top of that, they've got silver inventory, and they're producing, you know, around 5 million, 4 million-ish a month in cash flow at these silver prices. So that all being said, it's got a very much an exploration bent, and I'll let Luis take you through it. But without further ado, Luis, take it away.
Rob, thank you very much, and thanks to Mines and Money. Yeah, I think you just said it all, really. Now for something different, we Andrew, could you leave it back on that slide, actually, please? Could you leave it on the title slide?
Yep. Sorry. Yep.
Thanks very much.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. As Rob just indicated, we are newly listed as of Monday. It is something very different. We're not your average junior company coming to the TSXV as a tier 1 issuer. What you have there in the photograph is San Bartolome that used to be part of Core Mining and was acquired 3 years ago. So private, generating a lot of cash, as Rob just mentioned. That is the Cerro Rico in the background. So we're at about 4,200, 4,300 meters altitude. Cerro Rico is on the national flag is 4,800 meters to the peak, and it's been mined for the last 500 years. So we have a plant that was built by Core, commissioned June 2008 for $188 million at the last count. The numbers vary. But anyway, we're producing 157 million shares, as Rob mentioned. We came to the market at $1 a share. I think we closed today after a little bit of a wild ride and lack of liquidity at 142. So we're about $220 million today. Next slide, please, Andrew. I felt compelled to leave the forward-looking statements there because obviously I haven't given any guidance, and so I warn you there might be some numbers that are forward-looking. Next one, Andrew, thank you. This is the other side of Cerro Rico. As I said, it's been mined for 500 years. We are established, it's exceptionally profitable, and you know, the reason we're coming to the market is for the sole purpose of growth and development. So what we have now, if you go to the next slide, please, Andrew. Brief highlights. Rob was pretty much spot on. Last year we produced 5.9 million ounces at roughly $15 US per ounce, roughly because we haven't published our annual accounts yet, our audited accounts. It's a 1.65 million ton per annum plant, so 5,500 tons a day. We've got a very simple process. In the photograph you saw earlier, you've got the leaching tanks and you've got Merrill Crowe refining. So very high pure silver doré bars being produced and taken out to Asahi in the US. Rob stole my thunder. We do have $70 million US in cash and generating every month another, well, at these prices, roughly 4 after tax. So we're underpinned by cash is the point. And last quarter of 2020 alone, we generated 23 million. We do have a very well-known team supporting us, built multiple mines over the years. And I would encourage you to look at our new website, andeanpm.com, to look at some of the background of our directors and more on the company. Going on to the next slide, please. Why is it significant? So San Bartolome is the only large-scale commercial plant in Bolivia. So we do have 43101 resource. We have a life of mine of 2.5 to 3 years. But we also source third-party ore from as far away as 300 kilometers. So we are able to bring very high-grade ore and put it through the plants. And we have, you know, a captive market really. So that blends very nicely. That is also allowing us to extend the life of mine. And this plant has continuously produced since 2008, save March, April last year for COVID. Moving on to the next slide, just to give you the snapshot, as already mentioned, 5.9 million ounces. So we have, it's an unusual model. You would have seen it elsewhere, maybe in countries like Peru. We have multiple operations that are feeding in. So we are screening 12, 15 at any time, and we have the ability to truck these and supplement our production. So 2018, about 17% of the mill feed would have been from third party. Last year was roughly 34%. And for this year, it'll be anywhere between 40 and 45%. And that is something that we expect to continue going forward. So our objective is to maintain steady flow production anywhere north of 5.5 million ounces, but we can see that historically we've always produced more than 5 million ounces. In addition, because you can see reasonably that when you do the maths, we are very much undervalued given the cash flow and the opportunity to grow. We've just started exploring 2 100% owned gold projects in Bolivia. They are in the prolific orogenic belt where Coricolo was. For Newmont, produced 5.5 million ounces. We have just started a 10,000 meter campaign on San Pablo. We've drilled probably 2/3, so 2,500 meters roughly of the first phase, 3,000 meters there. And then for Rio Blanco, a very exciting project that was reviewed by a prominent North American geologist back in 2013, 2014. And we're just putting access in. We'll do basic IP geophysics, but that looks like a really interesting project. So nothing here for exploration. In addition, we have our tailings. So we're just initiating, or we are initiating a tailings review to reprocess our own tailings. We've got 10 million tons, 40 grams per ton of silver, another 0.25% of tin in there. It's captive. So we expect that within 12 months to have a study that will hopefully grow our life of mine by another 4 to 5 years quite comfortably. Finally, just to summarize, I think I've said it all really, and I've probably gone over time now, but so very established, high margin model, generating a lot of cash. There's nothing in our share price for the exploration, and yeah, I think that's about it. Very exciting to be on the market, and very exciting to grow the company and look at stepping outside Bolivia at other jurisdictions with our cash.
Thanks very much, Luis. Thank you very much. And Kelvin / Andrew, if there's questions, I did see one come through, so perhaps you can.
Yep. So first question from Dennis Lehondez. What is the average grade there?
Well, I can't give you an average grade because we've got so many different deposits we're looking at. So it'll be the rough mill feed from our own deposits will be generally 110, 115 grams per ton. But some of the deposits that we're trucking from afar are in excess of 300 grams per ton.
Okay. What is Bolivia like as a mining jurisdiction?
Well, I said it at the outset. I mean, it's phenomenally well geologically endowed. I mean, you've got Glencore that's there on the sulfides, not too far away from us. You've got Sumitomo that invested 1.5, 1.6 billion in San Cristobal. It's a very, I think, underexplored and great opportunity. The new government needs, like most jurisdictions, especially during COVID, needs investment, needs cash. We have a new Ministry of Mines from the private sector. And of course, we're working very closely with Comibol. There's the parastatal, the state mining company, and also the president that came from the private sector. So we're very excited about growing.
Who is your partner? Correct. Like they are your partner as well, right? So in that sense, there's a
all the projects, but yeah, they're our partner in a lot of our projects. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm going to speak for the unspoken probably is what people think of Bolivia. There's question marks regarding that, but the fact that there is a relationship that's close and working relationship with the government is a very good thing.
Absolutely. And, you know, let's not forget, I'll give you 3 names, some of which you'll be familiar. New Pacific Metals, 800 million Canadian market cap, doesn't have a PEA, is a silver exploration company in Bolivia. El Oro, 250 million exploration in Bolivia. Silver Elephant exploration, $80 million in Bolivia. So, you know, our paltry $220 million market cap with production and with a prospect of growing organically is, we believe very much undervalued right now.
And maybe just touch quickly on the shareholder base. Can you just give us the sort of the mix there?
Yeah, so the chairman and founders have a significant chunk, which is why we're finding our feet in terms of a public company. Chairman has 52%. Eric Sprott has 14%. And then a couple of the other founding directors have 5-6% each. We brought in, during a small fundraise in February, we brought in some Toronto names, Ixios, Arrow, yourselves, obviously Rob, Dundee. Who am I forgetting? We brought in Merck, and of course Sprott Asset Management. They would be some of the names that came in, and Ruffer out of London. So we've got some. We're building. We're just at the starting the building phase in terms of institutional investors.
Okay. Just in terms of time, we're bumping up on the edge of the hour here. What, Andrew, is there any further questions?
No, I don't think there's any further questions from the audience. No, I think we're gone through all the questions, Rob.
Well, I won't keep anyone too much longer. It is a long weekend. We're rolling into globally here, an extra long weekend in the UK as opposed to Canada. But just a huge thank you to Minds and Money. You know, these formats to get a number of companies to be able to kind of give the punchline of their stories in a tight format, with the option to have some audience questions in there is just been, you know, it's a really quite a revolutionary thing. And don't forget these sort of events have an afterlife, you know, in social media and for the companies and the investors alike. So we like the format. And we encourage you to continue to follow the 5 at 5s in all the different formats and forms that they do globally. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Kelvin, for that from us at Dundee. You know, one final comment is, despite the recent pullback in gold and precious metals, I'll say this, and I know I'm speaking for Jonathan Goodman in particular, we're very bullish on precious metals going forward. And we look at this pullback in the precious metals as a great opportunity to add to some of our favorite positions. And we've done that. If you've followed our positions, you've seen us do that in a meaningful way. So I'll leave it at that. Happy Easter, happy Passover, and just a final point, happy April Fool's Day. So I'll leave it at that. Andrew, if there's any more, over to you.
No, I think that all that remains for me to do is to go and thank Carlos Bertoni from Reunion Gold, John Barker from Loncor, Max Sali from New Place of Dome, Galen McNamara from Summa Silva, Louisa Silva from Andean Precious Metals, and of course, Rob Dixon from Dundee Goodman. I hope you all have a good Easter. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys on the panel. Bye.